After this wonderful presentation by my two former speakers here, especially Dr. Tej Changatham, and the sincerity of such a sweet person, Nima. I know her for a long time. After his wonderful presentation, it's like, pardon my French, but it's like farting against thunder. So, so I don't know much how exciting can it be further than these two wonderful presentations. He has been a treasure trove of information. He has numbers on the tip of his fingers. I always call myself an accidental businessman. When I finished college, I wanted to join the government. I actually qualified for Undersecretary and also DSP. But in the interview, my father's very good friend, Mr. L.B. Shri, was there. He was the secretary. He said, "We're not taking your interview, you go work with your father." So I went again with a DSP and he said, "To phiri ais." So my journey, my trials with the government ended there. Nevertheless, like when you are thrust, because I came from a family who was in business, I was thrust into it more by accident. Then I first started with something very small. I started a small, it used to be a hotel. Sikkim had just opened up to tourism, and I converted that into a hotel. And that was the first time I started my business journey. And I remember when my first guest came, it was a Gujarati family. And they stayed the night and they paid me 721 rupees. And when I received the money, my legs were shaking. I was so, excited to receive that money. It was the first time I earned that money myself. And I couldn't believe it. It was such a joy. And that joy, I remember I even framed that money. For a long time it was framed in my restaurant. So that was the kind of joy that you can get when you earn money for yourself. And as Dr. Tej was saying, when you can work for it. Everybody has responsibilities, whether it's your family, you work, if you are working as an employee, you work for either the government or some other entrepreneurship or business. But when you yourself are providing this, instead of being job dependent, when you're job creators, the feeling is totally different. I had prepared, today's presentation, but I'm seeing these two people speak so extempore, But I'm not good in speaking extempore, so I'll refer to some of my notes. Since we are talking about entrepreneurship, it is one of the most dynamic forces in our society. Look at India. Till 1991, we followed the model of, you can say, kind of a socialist model which had a mixed economy. We were taught in schools when we were growing up that a mixed economy was the ideal choice for India because it balanced regions, it balanced. So anybody who was making too much money, you couldn't get license to make more. So it just went against the very rationale of capitalism. For example, in those days everybody knows scooters were very popular, Bajaj scooter. So Bajaj scooter could produce, I think, just not more than 60,000. If you had a demand for more than 60,000, they could not produce because the license was up to 60,000. And you cannot imagine that today. And India has changed since. In 1991, a phenomenal thing happened. India, we were at the brink. We had just 2 or 3 months worth of imports. We had foreign reserve, just that was 2 to 3 months. And then we were forced to liberalize. And at such a time, we had Dr. Manmohan Singh leading the charge as the finance minister in that government. And then you had Subramanian Swamy to assist him. So when India opened its doors, within a period of just 9 years from there, everybody was talking about India Unbound. And it unleashed this latent entrepreneurial spirit. And India being an old civilization, we were at one point of time, 200 years ago, or 300 years ago before the British came, India and China control more than half the GDP of the entire world. When some of the first British East India Company traders, when they came to India, and he surveyed, and when he had to report back, he said, there's nothing we can sell in India. You get everything there. So there's nothing the British could sell to us that we were in need of. And that some of you probably know the history of China, how the British gold was depleted because China kept exporting tea, and tea became it became the national drink of Great Britain. And they were totally depleted of the gold reserve. So what they did was they forced opium on the Chinese population so they could give them something so they could continue to buy their tea. So I'm just giving you a background of how these two Asian giants were 300 years ago, and now, almost like karmic circle, we have come back to that point of time in which these two great Asian nations are again rising up. And India, I don't know how many of you know, when we had the old model, it took us 56 years to reach our first $1 trillion economy. Then it took us, I'll just see the first $1 trillion, 58 years it took us, 2006-07. The second trillion, 2014-15, less than 8 years. Third trillion, 2021-22. And the fourth trillion this year, ending 31st March 2025, we will reach 4 trillion. So see the compounding effect of this growth. Absolutely phenomenal. And as students of business, entrepreneurship, you must understand this concept of compounding. It is, I don't know whether my Marwari friends are here, they understand it intrinsically. It's in their blood. They'll understand it. And you will see that this compounding phenomenon is working. We have few things going for us in India. Your youth, a youth that is below 35. China is already on degrowth. Japan is in degrowth of population. So there's no nation in the world where the GDP has grown along when when they have experienced degrowth of population. So you have GDP, a young GDP, compounding GDP growth, a young population, but there's a caveat to it. Your education, what kind of education? It is not about just being employed in future. It's the problem of employability. And right now here, doctor has told us he's actually, in artificial, that's the holy grail of 21st century. Because your education must keep pace with technology, also with technology and social structures. So as this environment, right now India is in this churn, and it's an amazing time to be in India, at least for the foreseeable 20-25 years. And for you people in the audience, we caught it just when I was finishing. India had just launched when I finished in 89 college. 91, we just opened up our doors to the world. And here, India has matured to an extent economically. We have created environment. And Dr. Tej spelled out how the simple things like Aadhaar, other platforms were built on it. And we are all gainers of that technology. I know when Aadhaar was being launched, there was a lot of protest. A lot of India, we are argumentative people. We don't agree. We always agree to disagree. But there was a lot of protest against the Aadhaar. But when something is well thought of, so many platforms which you never imagined has been built on top of it. And to talk about, I think Dr. Tej was there when he talked about 80,000 startups in India and more than 100 unicorns. You know what a unicorn is? Anybody knows what a unicorn is? In the audience, students? You know what a unicorn is? It's a startup that has a market value of over $1 billion. That's the part. In just a matter of how many years? Few years, since 2008, since the last government started under Prime Minister Mr. Modi, that this idea of unicorns was given a thrust. 100 companies over $1 billion market, each one. Market valuation. So see the power of an innovative idea. Something as, like for example today, when you talk about Silicon Valley, their business was so different in terms of not the brick and mortar that we thought. Like if you go back in history, the 18th century, anybody who had, it was anybody who had coal, because the Industrial Revolution was powered by the coal. Then you had, anybody had the technology advantage in steel production. Then in the earlier part of the 20th century, you had petrol and diesel, basically crude oil. Now we've been talking forever, but it is the energy source that is coming, that is hydrogen. So, each cycle, there has been innovation in history which has led countries who took that advantage, both in technological intervention and led their country. Like look at Japan. They were finished as far as after the Second World War. But how did they rise up? Almost like a phoenix till the 1990s. But then there's a different story about quantitative easing in which, they printed too much money and the property was overvalued, and that crashed. But what I'm trying to say is, innovation is where new economies are built. And today, if I were there sitting amongst you, I would be, I would have no two ways about joining, being an employee. I would first think of how to start a business, because the environment is ripe and it's for your taking. As our MP Sahib has said, the decision is yours. What you want to do with. You can sleep at home. You can take today's this little presentation from three of us and make it yours. Or you can just laugh at the jokes that we cracked, or, and just go home. But if there is even a one or two person that we may have inspired or instilled something in you, I feel we've done a good job. Because that is what will make the difference. So, look at Nima Lama, I call her Seema. I know her for a long time. From something so small she started. But today, I've sold out a few of my cars also. As she grew in her business, she has done well. And I'm sure she employs so many more people. So, the government in Sikkim has also been trying to make you less dependent on looking for jobs, rather inspire. And there's tons of, if you just go down to your the startups or the under industries, there's so many schemes. Nobody is willing to. Nobody's even bothered to go and find out. And we just learned a lovely lesson how Tripura, just by sending these bamboo sticks to South India, they're making money. And they're now trying to do that in Tripura itself, making those incense sticks. So something as simple as that can make a difference. And today, you can do business at the speed of thought. And that is the beauty of being the Internet of Things, being connected, being global. And even in a person in a village, if he has a bright idea, he or she can reach across this vast customer base. And India, we are blessed with that. We are 140 million people. It's a huge market. So it just requires for you to be a little more innovative. And I know what Seema has said, we have the sheep mentality. And if you go to MG Marg, you'll see now bakeries everywhere. There must be at least 50, 60 bakeries in and around Gangtok. Yeah. So because we're just seeing what the other person has done. We're not thinking something different. I'm not a great businessman because I've failed in so many. I started coffee in the whole Himalayan region. I was the first one to start coffee. And now, of course, last year in the flood, my factory got washed away. But in Kalimpong, that you hear Kalimpong coffee, I started it. It's not for the want of trying. I may have failed. Even my distillery is struggling. So a lot of places I've done so many businesses which I was the one, I don't know, few people may have heard. Mito. It was my, I was the person there also, but that also failed. But it is not for the lack of trying. I tried my hand in everything. Of course, the face of the meter was somebody else, but the person behind the meter was us. 3 of us were there. So, a lot of these things, what I'm trying to say is, you should not be afraid to try. Of course, I came from a slightly privileged family in the sense that I stood on the shoulders of a giant who was my father. He was a natural businessman. And none of us, his children, can even be 10% of what he was. But I never saw myself, every time I failed, I just had to pick myself up and say, okay, what's next? So this is, I don't want to take much time, so I'll just try to wrap up. See, and being in Sikkim, there are few obvious choices. We are gifted with a beautiful environment. Our landscapes are wonderful. We have a beautiful state. So, ecotourism, it's an obvious choice. And sustainable small hydro projects. These are, an obvious choice. So, we are an organic state, and there is a pent-up demand for that. Anybody who's interested in horticulture, floriculture, all these, there is a huge demand, and it's just trying to, he's the right person here incubating. You just have to bounce off ideas and see how you can reach to that niche where they are not bothered about the money. They need the product. And if you can give it to them to that person at that time, you can charge 300, 400, 500% of the value of the product. This is how business works. Like he said, Ghana, Indonesia, and then you have people who are least bothered about, who are not price sensitive at all. So so many possibilities remain. And you are lucky because you're in that environment. During my time, if I said I want to be a businessman, later I'll be a government contractor or I have a foreign shop in Lal Bazar, I have to do smuggling. So that was what it was. But India has changed now. Today, a person who does disc jockeying, he can make more money than a secretary. Sorry, but I'm just telling you the facts. Yeah, he can make more money than a secretary. Just doing disc jockeying. So, it's a brave new world out there. And please take advantage of that. Thank you for your time. So, if there are any questions, fine. Otherwise,
yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful session. So I just received a few questions from the...
Seema here said, it's built in business. The first thing you do is building trust. What does trust mean? Trust means the products you will be selling, if you're not able to give the product and you're overcharging it, unless that is a model which is a separate conversation about, like they said, you can, if you're cooking and you get dhania, you can charge 5 times. Those are people who just need the product at that time, at that moment, and you're willing to pay. But I'm talking about products like a car or a television or something. If you give it at the right price, and if there's discounts being offered, if you give that with no questions asked, and you provide the services that is involved in that vehicle or in that product, customers will return to you. No questions about that. So building trust is also finding the right manpower, because you cannot be there everywhere. Delegation is key to business. I mean, in my experience, I'm not saying I'm such a great person. I mean, I'm still a struggling entrepreneur, and I'm always keen to learn new things, always open to learning, because when I talk to my managers and employees, I always say, we are both students and teachers. We learn from each other. So, trust is the building block of business. Integrity, hard work, these will never change. Your strategies may change, but the foundations will remain the same.
Thank you. So another question from PNG School. What is your message for a girl child as she motivates herself to be an empowered woman in the world of business?
Look at somebody here, my fellow panel. Look at her. Be inspired. And it can be something very simple. And one thing I noticed was one of my friends, he's from a business family, Marwadi, and I said, how come you're so good in business? How come you understand money so well? This was my grandfather. He used to give us bundles of money to count. And if you count it properly, in those days we give 10 rupees, they keep. So it was this excitement to, earn that little money. And when long time back, about 20 years back, I was called to give a talk, maybe 22 years back, to the young, some of them have already become district collectors, to give a talk because India was just opened up. So when we were growing up, profit was a bad word. Oh, he's a profiter, bad word. No, if you earn profit sincerely with your hard work, is the best thing. Because with profit, you can make your business grow. When you make your business grow, you can employ more people. You can reach a larger market. And being a woman does not restrict you at all. It's just your imagination, your hard work, your dedication, that will see you through.
Thank you. So another question.
I think I've done more than 30 minutes.
How was your experience of investing in local startups?
How is mine?
Experience of investing in local startups.
Well, I've been a failure. My Mito went for a toss. And my coffee it became an expensive hobby. But I had that passion. I had that passion to, when I met this gentleman, I was flying to Singapore, I think. We were on the same flight. And he started talking about coffee. And his grandmother was, his mother or grandmother was from Darjeeling. And he's Australian. So he said, I want to do something to give it back to the people of Darjeeling, Kalimpong, because he has been a coffee consultant for more than 40 years. So in that flight we got talking, and I said, no, you have to meet, I'll send you somebody who's interested. My brother-in-law used to do ornamental coffee. So I said, you should talk to him. So I put them together shared their emails, but somehow I was always communicating to him, and then I got into it. But what attracted me was, he said, coffee is, we will not replace, we will do plantation style. Because plantation style will destroy people. Like in Kalimpong, when I started, you could not believe the price of the land there. 100 acres you can get it for, 1 acre you can get for 1 lakh. It was that cheap. I said, no, I'll not do that. And in Sikkim, from my own cousins, I bought land, 1 acre, in those same time, 2012, I bought same land, 75 lakhs per acre. And there, 1 acre, 1 lakh. So I said, no, I'm not going to buy land, because this farmer, he knows only one skill. That is still his land. He's got 5 acres. I give him 5 lakhs. He will buy scooter, he will buy color television, he'll buy fridge, and in 4 to 5 years, that money is over, and he becomes landless. He becomes a landless farmer. I said, no, I don't want that fate for him. So I gave everything free. 25 greenhouses I made. I gave, even the greenhouses they built, I paid them. And so, because my concept was simple, don't give them a fish, make them learn how to fish. I went further, I said, I will make a pond behind your house, put the fish there, and you catch the fish and sell it to me. But त्यति पनि गर्नु हुँदैन रहेछ, because these people, somebody from the market will come and give them 2 rupees extra and you sell it to them.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think last question from Tadung Senior Secondary School. अहिलेको यो समय जसमा सबैजना अङ्क अनि उच्च उच्च स्थानहरू पाउन खोज्दैछन्, यसमा आफ्नो एउटा बिजनेस खोल्ने आँट अनि जास कसरी पाउने? Even our own guardians expect us to work 9 to 5.
Okay. My Nepali is very patchy. So, अगर तपाईले केही पनि कोही बिजनेसको मौका आयो, त्यसमा त लगानी गर्नुपर्छ हैन, इन्भेस्टमेन्ट. डोन्ट थिंक बिग. ठुलो नसोच्नुहोस्, सानो सोच्नुहोस्. बिकज सानोदेखि ठुलो जान्नुमा कोही सीमा हुँदैन. तले कि चाहिँ ठुलो गरेर मुनि आउनु, इट इज ब्याड फर बिजनेस. तपाईले सानो सोच्नुहोस्, सानोदेखि इन्क्रिमेन्टल, एन्ड तपाईको सर्भिस या तपाईको प्रोडक्ट राम्रो छ भने, स्पेशली वेयर प्रोडक्ट जो चाहिँ तपाईले ट्रेडिङ हैन, जो तपाईले म्यानुफ्याक्चर गर्छ, त्यसको चाहिँ एक्सपोनेन्शियल ग्रोथ हुन सक्छ. जो ट्रेडिङ हुन्छ त्यसमा चाहिँ आई वुड से इन्क्रिमेन्टल ग्रोथ हुन सक्छ. तर जब तपाईको एउटा इनोभेटिभ प्रोडक्ट छ, त्यसको चाहिँ एक्सपोनेन्शियल ग्रोथ हुन्छ. मीन्स इट विल ग्रो इन कन्सेन्ट्रिक सर्कल्स. यु आर सेलिङ टुडे 10, you will not grow in 12, 13. If the product is good, it will go 20, 30, 20, 40, 60, 80, like that. It will grow in multiples. So, start small. Don't think small. Start small, then you can grow big. Don't think big and remain stuck being small. Start small. It's always better to start small and grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.